afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the latest in our Daily Mirror Cost of Living Facebook Live series. Each week, we come to you live with a different money expert to answer all your cost of living and general financial questions. My name is Levi Winchester. I'm a money reporter here at the Daily Mirror, and I'm joined again by the lovely Lynn Beattie, who runs the Mrs Mummypenny blog. Thank you so much for joining us, Lynn.
Thank you for having me again. Pleasure to be here.
Always a pleasure, always a pleasure. So this week we are going to be talking about lost bank accounts and all the other places where you could have forgotten money stashed away. So as always, if you have a question, leave it in the comments box below or email us at mirror.money.saving@mirror.co.uk. So now, Brits are said to be sitting on an eye-watering £50 billion in lost or forgotten bank accounts, pensions and other investments, which is just a huge, huge figure. And of course, with the cost of living crisis in the UK deepening, clawing back cash has never been more important. So, Lynn, what I'd like to start with is bank accounts. I think it's actually probably a lot simpler to track down a dormant bank than what people might think. So how would someone go about this?
Yeah, it is actually quite simple to track something down that you've had sort of in recent years, in the past 15 years. So there's like a free service that tracks through all different bank accounts, savings accounts, and NSI accounts as well, which is called mylostaccount.org.uk. So that's mylostaccount.org.uk. And then you fill in one form, and then it literally scours through everything, and you'll get a result back if you think you've got a long lost account. I think we've all got a bit of an inkling that we've maybe got something in the past. We might have like lost paperwork or house move or whatever. But you do have to fill in quite a lot of details on that form. So just be prepared for all your different previous addresses, name changes. And I've even read like accounts that you need to have details of your account number and sort of like a lot of details in there, and then they'll be able to trace that back for you.
And what are the reasons why someone would have lost track of a bank account?
Well, there's all manner of reasons, isn't there? I think the biggest reason is probably like something that actually I've always been very good at. Maybe you'd expect with a personal finance expert. If you're not great at keeping paperwork of all the accounts you've had, then it's easy to lose the details of the account and forget that you've had it. Or maybe people have opened up bank accounts for you. Maybe you've got bank accounts in previous names. There's all manner of reasons why you might have lots of different bank accounts. I know I've got loads of different bank accounts because I try them out as part of my job to see like if there's anything different or unique about them, and put a little bit of money into each of them. So actually, as I was preparing for this, I just thought, I've got a Monzo account and I think I might have a little bit of money in there.
Oh, I love that, putting what we're talking about into practice.
Yeah. Totally. But I think even like if you think back to, I suppose the thing that popped into my head is like accounts when I was younger, like a teenager or a child. Like, is there any money sort of hanging around in there? Because there is this 15-year rule, which I know that you're going to go on to talk about, where if but you can get at money beyond that 15 years if you can prove that account was yours and you've got all the right sort of details.
So just before we come on to that, what kind of happens then when you fill out this form online? What is the kind of next stage in this process? Do you have to kind of manually reach out to these banks and reclaim your cash, or does this website kind of do it for you? What's the sort of kind of next steps?
So the website is going to trace your details for you, and that could take anything between sort of 1 and 3 months. As we know at the moment, like lots of these sort of services are taking like quite a long time for things to be processed. You think about, what's happening with passports and driving license changes and stuff. It's all taking a very long time. So yeah, it's going to take a bit of time for it to come back, but then you're going to need to go and give those details to the bank and say, look, these are all the details I've got. This is my money. Can I have it back, please? And they have to give it to you.
No, they do. Yeah, under the rules, they have to. And that kind of brings us on to our next point, actually, because I know you mentioned this earlier, that there is a 15-year rule where after 15 years, your bank account will be classed as dormant, and all that money would technically be passed into like a charitable fund. But what happens if you don't come forward and these 15 years have passed? Can you still reclaim that money?
Yes, you still can go and reclaim it. And it's the exact process that I've already described of going through the mylostaccount.org.uk. The banks just hold these big funds of money of dormant accounts on their balance sheets, and they keep some of it back for these claims. So yes, it's all is not lost. It's like no matter how far in the past it is.
Perfect. So what I'd like to move on to now is lost child trust funds. So how, I know you mentioned this earlier, Lynn, as well, how, parents can set up these accounts for their children, then people grow up, they don't realise they've got these accounts. So how would the process for finding a lost child trust funds differ to a normal bank account, or would it be the same?
No, it does slightly differ. So just to explain a little bit about child trust funds, because I've got 3 children, and 2 of my children had these child trust funds. So they were the government gave a £250 voucher to children born after the 1st of September 2002 until 2010. So I've got 2 children that fall in that. My youngest sadly didn't. So the government give you the £250 voucher. Now, I remember at the time, didn't really know what to do about the money, and it came in the bounty bag, which I'm sure all mums will know that bounty bag well, this pack of freebies you're given when your baby's born in the hospital. There was a little voucher in there to put your money into an account with. It was a couple of companies, one of which is called Foresters. So a lot of people have just simply put their vouchers into those accounts. But then there's another estimated 700,000 children where their parents did absolutely nothing with this. It was literally like a check for 250 quid in your bounty bag.
So many people.
So many people, and I'm astounded it's that many. So there's almost like this lost, and you think that 700,000 people of £250, but like up to 18 years ago. So that's grown in value over the years. So what the government did was they invested that money for you. So if you think you're one of those people, like your children fall in that date and you definitely didn't open up an account, then you speak to HMRC and give them your details and your children's details, and then HMRC will be able to claim that money for you. But what I also want to say about child trust funds is because I've done quite a bit of work on my own and written about this, is so I sort of moved my money into this child trust fund like 14 years ago when my eldest was born, and I didn't really pay much attention to the fees I was paying. So some of these companies that you're almost encouraged to put your money into, the fees are really high. So I switched my child trust funds over to a junior ISA like a couple of years ago, last year I think actually, and literally reduced my fees from like 1.5% down to 0.5%.
Wow.
And each account's got like a few £1,000s worth of balance in there because I did add some money into it as well, and it's grown over time. And the saving of fees just from going from 1.5% down to 0.5% was like hundreds on each of the accounts. So it's really worth paying attention to the fees on those kind of accounts. I know that's a little bit different to like tracing lost accounts, but just be really careful with where your child trust fund is sitting.
No, I think definitely a very, very valid point. And if would you be able to track down this child trust fund if the trust fund is in your name, or does it have to be the parents, like the person who made the account for you?
Right, yeah. So once the money matures, as at the age of 18, then it then transfers into the child's name. So they then are the owner of that money. So then they trace it in their name. But before that, then it will be the parents.
Perfect. So what I'd like to move on to next then is pensions. So obviously this finding lost pensions obviously counts just for your kind of private and your workplace pensions, not your state pension. So how would someone go about tracking down a lost retirement fund?
Yeah, so you mentioned there's like 50 billion worth of lost money in the UK, but I think about 18 to 20 billion of that is actually pensions. So there's
Huge
just
number, huge.
it's huge numbers of just money that people don't know they've got. I can't believe it. So there's two different processes for pensions. So firstly, you've got workplace pensions. Okay, so just imagine, like we on average end up working for 7 or 8 different employers in our lifetime. So you could potentially have lots of different pots of money with different employers, and you might have lost them in the past. So there's the pension tracing service, which is a government service. It's free. They will get you your details of if you've got previous employers' details, they'll be able to tell you the details of the pension. Then you can go to the pension administrator and get sort of more details on it, your account numbers and your balances and stuff. But if you have personal pensions, so like, for example, I'm self-employed, so I've got my own sort of personal pensions set aside. And if you've lost any of them, then it's the pension advisory service who can track down them. But what I will say about pensions is, and in fact, this is what I did with mine. So I knew I had a few pots from different employers, and it just felt quite messy and a little bit out of my control, where they were all in sort of lots of different places. So what a lot of people do is like consolidate all those pots together. So if you think you've worked for lots of different employers, try and get some of the details of them. And then there are lots of services out there, Pension Beaver being a great example, who will consolidate all that for you and do quite a lot of the hard work and running around to get that information, and then put it all in one pot. That's useful.
Yeah, I guess the main advantage of that, as you said, is it keeps everything all in one place. So you don't have to forget about it.
Yeah, and a lot of people have got maybe like £1,000 in one pot or a few hundred in one, and you've got to be really careful with those sort of small pots that they're not eaten away by all the fees. So it almost like makes sense to, again, it's going back to fees, like what I talked about with your child trust funds. Is make sure you're not paying too much for that money you've got there, because it's your money and you want it to grow over time, particularly pensions for your retirement. So yeah, sort of I personally, and this is just me talking about my personal experience, I like to have everything in one place.
No, that makes sense. I think as well, what I would just kind of reiterate as well, all these kind of services and these websites that we're talking about so far, they are all free to use. You know, you shouldn't be paying someone to track down these accounts or these pensions for you. There are, you know, these are the ways to do it yourself, and you don't have to pay anything.
Exactly.
What I would then like to move on to next, Lynn, is premium bonds. Obviously, there are millions of people who pay into premium bonds every month, so there must be, you know, thousands, millions in lost prices just sitting there.
Yeah. And premium bonds is similar to the bank and savings accounts tracing service that we mentioned at the beginning. So you can, doing that, going through mylostaccount.org.uk will give you your premium bonds information as well. Or you can just go straight to NSNI and contact them with, again, all of your different names, previous addresses, and they will track that down for you. And you never know, if it's been sat there for like a few years, you might have a few prizes that have built up. How nice would that be? Like, oh, I was £1 million prize winner.
No, that's it. Could just be your lucky day.
Yeah, a lot of it, premium bonds is an interesting one, actually. A lot of people, I'm going off point here a little bit, but because interest rates on savings accounts, cash savings accounts, are so low, a lot of people are putting their sort of immediate emergency money into premium bonds, because you can get at the money relatively quickly, like within sort of 4 or 5 working days, and you've just got that chance of winning that, you know, those, I mean, all the smaller prizes, but that big prize. So yeah, a lot of people are putting money into there, but there's a limit. You can only put 50,000 into premium bonds per person.
Yeah, that's it. And then I think the smallest prize you can win every month is 25, obviously going all the way up to £1 million, if you like.
But they have recently increased the size of the prize pots because interest rates are going up. So they're trying to, you know, compete with what the basic
entice
bank
people
accounts are
in.
giving.
Absolutely. So the next topic we are going to move on to then is lost loyalty schemes. And I'm very excited about this one, Lynn, because I know you've had great success with tracking down lost loyalty points as of late.
Yeah, and I think this is a bit of an unknown about loyalty points. I don't think that many people know that Avios and Nectar points are connected. I have got, and a lot of people will have credit cards. So I use my credit card for all of my monthly spending to basically maximize the loyalty points I get, and then I pay it off in full each month, so it's never costing me any money in interest. I think credit cards can be a really powerful thing when you use them for the rewards and the consumer protection as well, of course. But so I've been using my an American Express card for about 18 months, building up loads of Avios points. And you can actually turn Avios points into Nectar points. So I had quite a balance, something like 30,000 points built up, which was, I was like, okay, what's that actually worth? Because I was never going to turn it into flights. And it's actually worth £280 worth of Nectar points.
So good.
So amazing, which you can use in Argos or Sainsbury's or on eBay. Or maybe like save it for Christmas, and then suddenly you've got like your Christmas food paid for, or a few gifts and presents. I was amazed, and I put it on Twitter, and like loads of people like came back to me with, "Oh my gosh, Lynn, I've just found like 50,000 Avios points," and all these people coming back with all these amounts they found. So that's very, very exciting. But yes, that was.
Especially when you don't know it's there as well. It's like a little bonus, isn't it?
Totally. I just did not know that money was there. It was amazing. So that sort of sent me on a bit of a mission, because I was writing an article a few weeks ago for the Mirror. So I was like checking through all of my loyalty schemes. So I found 90 quid in my Tesco Club card that I'd forgotten was there. I found like free coffees in like Costa apps and Subway apps. I found some money on my Boots Advantage card. So it's really worth just going and checking through all of that. I found nearly 400 quid's worth of money just sat on loyalty cards. So, and that's not to be sniffed at, is it? 400 quid's worth of
no, not at all. Especially as it's money that, you know, if you're buying stuff anyway, you're just collecting these points and they're just building up. It's essentially like free money if you're spending it anyway, of course.
Yeah. No, literally, it's like free money. Particularly the Nectar one, because you can actually use that for shopping. Although I think we are going to get a new sofa, which is only going to actually cost like a few £100. So yeah, it's really, really cool.
That's really exciting. So the final topic we are going to come on to just before we look at a couple of questions is lost insurance policies. So how would someone go about finding an insurance policy that they've taken out and just completely forgotten about?
So the best place to look for insurance policies is because you have to pay for them each month. So it's to look on your bank statement and see what details are on there. And then you'll be able to find the name of the insurance company. Then you can call them up. But there's also there's a place called and this also applies to lost investments as well. So the Unclaimed Assets Register. Okay, so this isn't a free service. I need to point out this costs £25, but this covers like 76 of the major providers of insurance and investments, and you can again pop in some details, and they will find any sort of lost accounts, investments, or insurance in there. But it is a £25 fee, so yeah, that's sort of you need to definitely know you've got something sat in there to get that back.
Yeah, before you go spending your money. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we have a question here from an Omar Rana asking, are you also relating to trust accounts created in the early 90s? So I think he's saying, are we talking about the early 90s trust accounts as well when we were speaking earlier?
No, the Child Trust Fund was literally from the first of children born after the 1st of September 2002 until 2010. there is an account called, like, there are things called trust funds, completely different product.
So completely separate to what we were discussing earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually have another question for you, Lynn. So do you know of anyone, or have you yourself had any success with tracking down lost cash aside from obviously your loyalty points?
Yeah. So I get so many like messages and emails sent to me, and it's normally people just sharing their success stories with me, which is really like lovely and positive. So whenever I will write a story for a newspaper or on my website, then I'll always get like a barrage of people saying, "Oh yeah, no, I've taken your advice and I've done it." So yeah, I recently had one of my followers, who's a bit of a super fan, message me to say that they'd tracked down some accounts from it was from a long time ago, maybe like 15, 20 years ago. And it was old savings accounts, and they'd got like a few £100 back. So yeah, it's possible. Like if you have an inkling that you've got something there sort of in the back of your memory, just go check, because it's a free service, right? The my lost account thing, just to check to see what you've got there. You never know.
It's well worth it, especially as we said with the cost of living crisis at the moment. Every pound you can claw back, especially if it's yours already, every little helps, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I always think with these sort of pots of money, I'm a bit like it with my energy bill as well. I don't like my energy company to ever sit on credit amounts. Like, I would rather have it back in my accounts rather than them sitting on it. And by the way, you can ask your energy company to transfer those credits back to you. Like, it's money that's yours, so absolutely claim it and get it back in your bank account, not the banks or the companies.
No, absolutely. So I think just as we're kind of sort of coming near the end now, just to sort of round up, I mean, the sort of main thing I would like to flag is obviously these are free services. They are, relatively easy to use. I think as well, what people do need to understand as well, though, that a lot of the time, what these services will do is they will point you in the right direction of, say, like, a pension provider who you might have some money with, etc., and then you will usually have to contact them. So there is a little bit of legwork involved, but I think it is a relatively straightforward procedure. And I think if you do think you have got money tied away somewhere, it's well worth the time. Just sitting down for a half an hour or so and just rattling through a few websites. You never know what might come up.
Yeah, exactly. No, I always think with a lot of the sort of money saving, money making tips that we both sort of share about in our respective, in the Mirror and on Mrs Mummypenny, it always takes a little bit of time. But if you could maybe find £300, or I don't know, maybe save £500 on a bill in a year, then you've invested half an hour of your time to find £300 or £500. Like, when are you ever going to spend half an hour and earn, £300 in half an hour or £500 in half an hour? So I think if you turn it into sort of like earning potential, then it's really worth doing. Like, when I found those, the 280 quid worth of Nectar points, like, that was literally like 5-10 minutes of work of linking up a couple of accounts and transferring it over, and bam, 280 quid.
Yeah, it's so worth it, especially if there's just something, I think, in your mind that's like, I'm sure I had an account with this bank, or it's absolutely worth doing.
Yeah, back a really long time ago, I used to work for Marks and Spencer's, it's like 25 years ago, and I had an inkling that I was maybe paying some money into my pension or something like that. So I actually tried to investigate if I had some money there. I didn't, it turned out, but it was just worth doing it, just because of the off chance that there might have been a little bit of money there.
It might have been something. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think that is just about all the time we have today. Thank you so much, Lynn, for joining us again. It's been a pleasure as always.
Thank you for having me. A pleasure indeed.
Wonderful. And we will see you all next Thursday at 1 p.m. for another Cost of Living Facebook Live special. Thank you all. Bye.